This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and on the line I have one of the co-producers of the I Like to Hurt People movie from 1985, was released on VHS. He was also the director of photography, Brian Greenberg. How are you today, sir?
Great, thank you.
Now, you
And what?
contacted me. I guess you saw a review I did on the movie that I posted on the Hannibal TV. I had spoken to another person that was involved with, I guess, when it was finally released, named Tony Randall. Did you ever have any contact with him?
Tony Randall was a director and editor that worked at New World. That was friends with Don Jackson. Was probably instrumental in actually getting New World to put the money into finishing the film. So I didn't. I knew Tony Randall. We knew of each other, but we never really had any spent any time together.
So, what I
So
only learned in recent years is, and it explained a lot why everyone looked younger, was most of the footage was recorded in the 70s and then it was ultimately released in the 80s. Could you kind of give us a synopsis of your involvement with the film?
yeah, it was actually 1978, and we had Don and I had we're filmmakers in Detroit. You know, this is what we've been doing since we were like teenagers. We had some other friends, and we made movies together, and this was a career path we were on. So, and one of the things I was thinking about, and something that you may want to check out, I think you'd enjoy seeing, is before we did I Like to Hurt People, we did another film. It was called The Demon Lover, and you can find it on YouTube under the title The Devil Master. It basically was about this demon, basically about this person that has this cult, and he brings up a demon, and he ends up killing everybody in the cult. It was a very low budget film. It has people like Gunnar Hansen in it, who was Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a few other interesting people. It's kind of an oddball film, but after that movie, it was an independent film that I was part of. We raised the money independently, and we were able to get it made, produced, and put out there. And we started thinking about the next movie. And one of the ideas we had was to do another horror film. And the more we started thinking about it, we started thinking of the idea about doing a wrestling horror film. And one thing led to another, and somebody knew Bob Finnegan, and we met up with Bob, had a meeting, and kind of pitched him the idea of what we wanted to do. Took a liking to it, and the next thing you know, we were basically had a meeting with the Sheik, and again pitched him on the idea, and we kind of just tiptoed our way in to their world. And as we started to do this horror film, we had a little script and a couple of scenes that we were going to do, and we realized that the wrestlers were going to change their appearances every week. Continuity would be terrible. It was really going to be a tough thing to do with what our original idea was. But we kept going, and we started thinking more about the long term and kind of creating this quasi documentary once we started looking at all the footage. But the good thing about it is that once Bob Finnegan is also a co-producer, and once he was involved with us and kind of opened the door for us to meet the Sheik and the other wrestlers, once they got a sense of that we respected what they were doing, and that we were there also there to make a movie. We were pretty professional about what we were doing. They kind of really opened the doors and let us do what we wanted to do, which was really nice. Uh,
Did they kayfabe you much? Because back in those days, it was still pretty secretive.
Yeah, and they kept it that way. One of the things that we did, and one of the reasons I think that we had so much access, is that we knew where our boundaries were, and we weren't going to cross the line. So we didn't really see much behind that curtain, but there were a lot of moments. I mean, one of the things I'm working on right now is a making of behind the scenes DVD of the movie. Don and I, we used to carry our Super 8 cameras with us, and we shot a lot of behind the scenes. And there's footage of the Sheik that no one's ever seen that I think will be really good to have, to put out there, and a few other things with just about everybody that's in the movie. So I think it'll be a fun little thing to put out that I've been working on right now. I've been was hoping to start on it earlier, but I got waylaid with another project, and I just got back into it. So with any luck, in a few months, I'll have it out. It'll be up on eBay along with I Like to Hurt People Now, which is where I sell the DVD. Um, yeah, so that's a little bit about how this kind of all got started. You know, it really had a lot of different transformations before it ended up at New World. And Don was able to do the right thing. The New World was starting a Laserdisc division, and they were looking for product, and Don was there saying, well, look, we can finish this up and we can put this out. And I didn't really find out that he had completed it until after he had already been to Detroit and back and had made his deal with New World. So that was, it was good. I was glad that it all worked out. He finally was able to get it out. And over the years, it just, it picked up kind of a cult following. And I've asked other people before, what is it that why is this still so appealing to people? And I didn't realize that what we were doing at the time, no one else was. We were shooting these big-time wrestlers in big arenas, and not a lot of that footage kind of existed. So, that was good to hear, and I'm glad that there's still an audience out there for the movie. I mean, we actually had a lot of fun doing it, and we had a good time with the wrestlers, meeting all the wrestlers. They really they liked us, so they really were able to. We were able to work with them, and Dick the Bruiser was great. We really enjoyed working with him, and Andre was really good to work with. And in the behind the scenes, I have footage of things we do with these guys that's not in the movie that I think will be fun for people to see, especially if you're a big fan of Andre or the Sheik or Dick the Bruiser.
That'll have a lot of value now too, especially because a lot of those guys are dead.
Yeah, I know. I was shocked when I found out that Bob Finnegan had passed away. I'd actually talked to one of the Sheik's sons. It wasn't that. It was his youngest son. I can't remember his name. A few years back, and he kind of caught me up to date with everybody. And I was really disappointed. I would love to have reconnected with Bob. I think he would have. I know he had moved to Australia. I think he would have really been happy to hear about that the movie still has this following an audience of people that really appreciate wrestling back then.
What does the other Sheik son do, Captain Ed George, these days? That's featured heavily in the movie.
I am not sure what he's doing these days, other than I know he was involved with trying to get wrestling off the ground as a promoter. But recently, I have no idea. I really have not talked to anyone from the family in years. When we were making the movie, Ed was great. He was always there for us. We got to know him and his family. Everybody lived at Chic Manor there at the Sheik's very large home, and that was always good to go over there. It was, they're very friendly, very family oriented, and would always end up in the kitchen eating hot dogs at the end of the day, just gabbing away. But I really don't know.
I've actually seen that mansion on YouTube. There's actually a YouTube video of the Sheik in that home for anyone listening to this that wants to check it out.
Yeah, I think right now it's actually a bed and breakfast, which is kind of wild.
Now, did the Sheik kind of let you into his real personality? Obviously, he's a successful promoter and wasn't always the crazy guy that he portrayed as you display him in the movie.
Yes, he actually did. When you see the interview of Mike Kolonis, that's actually shot in the Sheik's office at his house. The Sheik really took a liking to us, which was good. And he was around us a lot and was very much a businessman. The only time we really saw behind, I'll tell you a little story. The only time we really saw kind of behind the curtain is a match with Ox Baker. I think he was featured that night, and I don't know what he did, but he was we were in the room next to him, and Don came in. He said, "Oh, you won't believe it. I just, all that screaming we just heard. Yeah, that was the Sheik and Ox Baker." And I guess the Sheik was really pissed at him. He really read him the riot act. And Ox Baker was just, really, really kowtowing to the Sheik. And I don't know what went on, but it was pretty intense. That was the only time I really saw anything like that. Normally, it was just business as usual. They wouldn't tell it. One of the things I'll tell you a funny story. When we first started filming, I think we were second. I think we were about 4 weeks in, and we usually will film on the weekends, and we didn't film the weekend before. And we got there, and everybody goes, "Oh, where the hell were you? Heather Feather wrestled a bear." What? Why didn't somebody tell us? So we realized that, that we had to be the ones that really had to, be on top of it. That they weren't going to, tell us stuff. We had to ask the right questions. And of course, after that, we were there pretty much every weekend filming. But it took them a little while to get comfortable around us, and we knew there were things we could do and couldn't do. But we pretty much had the freedom to, I would go in the ring with my camera, and that was like, nobody was doing that. That was pretty crazy that they'd let us do that, and I did that on a few matches. That was it was still a pretty good time with wrestling. When I was listening to your review, you had mentioned the thing about crowds towards the end, and I actually thought the crowds were pretty big when we were filming. You don't always see it in the background, but I'm between the ring and the crowd, and there were stuff would get thrown at me all the time. I always have to hey, security, make sure this guy doesn't jump on my back when I'm filming and stuff like that. So the crowd was still, to me, was still pretty was there and was still pretty active. Anyway.
What would you say like the average crowd was of the average event that you taped in those days? I guess the late 70s it would have been.
Well, it certainly wasn't sold out like it was the first time the Sheik wrestled Bobo Brazil. It wasn't as crazy as that, but it still held a pretty good audience. Maybe not up to the balconies, but it was pretty full. I wouldn't. That's a good question. Quite a few thousand. It wasn't. I wouldn't say hundreds. I always remember it being full and noisy and rowdy. So, at least half or more. For Cobo Arena. I remember going when we were filming in, I think Indianapolis. The arena there was just packed. It was Chic, Bruiser cage match, and it was as crazy as any wrestling match I'd ever seen.
Speaking of the Sheik matches, what was with that match he was talking about at the end of the movie on top of the hotel?
Well, that was something that surprised us. He basically, I can't remember what led up to it, why we were there, but suddenly we were, they had, I think what happened is they had the idea for the scene. Abdullah Farouk had the idea of what he wanted to say. Him and the Sheik just mumbled some things back and forth, and then it was like, okay, just turn the camera on. We're going to shoot this little scene. We're going to talk about, a match we're going to do it in on top of the Rensen. Because we were driving downtown. It must have been before a match. One night before a match, he had his limo with him, and we basically jumped in the front seat. They were in the back, and we just kept rolling. And they had lived the whole scene, and I think they wanted to put it in. We put it in at the end of the movie because we thought it was a good closer, and we knew at the time it was never going to happen. They were just talking about it. I know the Sheik had some relationship. I think they did. The Sheik and Muhammad Ali had some kind of relationship in the past where they did some match together or whatever. I'm not sure about that, but when we shot that scene, they were just, they just made that up on the spot.
Because that would have been shot before Muhammad Ali ever refereed at WrestleMania for WWE.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. For the little setup scenes, like when you had Andre put the guy on top of the Jeep, would the wrestlers be paid extra if they had to do a little scene like that, or was that they just willing to be part of the movie and do whatever you asked?
Yeah, that's basically what they did. They were willing to do, whatever we asked. Before we started the movie, we had everybody sign contracts. That was kind of interesting. So it was the night before a match. We're in the office area, and the Sheik's wife ran the business, and we're in there with the Sheik and her, and we had the wrestlers come in. All the wrestlers in the movie basically came in one by one to sign the contract now, so to go over with them, which said this was going to be deferred payment. You're signing your rights away. We can do whatever we want in perpetuity. No one was getting paid. Everybody was basically on deferred payment, and they all willingly signed. They were all, they knew what they were getting into, and they enjoyed it. It was fun, and we were going to put it on camera. The only person that gave us any pushback was Bobo Brazil. He was pretty funny. At first, he wasn't going to sign. We had to go through it with him once or twice. Then we finally convinced him to do it, and he was fine after that. But as he was signing, he was going, "Oh, I'm signing my life away. I know, and here we go." That made us laugh, and we always remember that.
Funny enough, it's one of the few good documentations of him over time, because there's not much out there of him behind the scenes or on the internet or anything.
That's too bad. He's really a good guy, and we had more footage. I only wish I could find what happened to the outtakes. I have some of them that I'm going to be using in the behind the scenes, but I know we had shot more with Bobo and shot more with Andre and a few other tidbits. I just don't know what the hell happened to it, but at least I have some fun stuff to show in the making of.
What was Dusty Rhodes like to work with?
Dusty was great. He was one of the first wrestlers we put in the movie, and he and Bob Finnegan were friends. They went to, I think, West Texas State together, but they had a relationship that was strong. And when he'd come in, he'd always hang out with us. He was really a good guy. When we shot that match, we had no idea that it was going to go on forever. This was one of the first matches we shot for the movie. And once they got into that leg lock, man, it just became a whole big deal, which we didn't think it was going to be. But that's them. That was wrestling back then. But I loved the scene we have where he does his little rant about living in the alley and eating pork and beans. That was just great. He was fun to work with. He liked hanging out with us again. So whenever he was in town, would always be doing the shtick, something with him. Would always find a scene, make something up that we could film with him. That's why there's that scene of him and New York Raymond. And there's another scene that's not in the movie that's going to be in the behind the scenes that we did between him and Finnegan, a little dialogue they had before one of the matches. Dusty was really, I didn't realize how popular he was at the time. I thought I knew a lot about I was a big fan of the Sheik, and I knew a lot of these wrestlers from growing up watching wrestling, but I didn't realize how big Dusty was, so that was fun. He was really a superstar, and his matches were always great to watch. Anyways, yeah.
What about Dory and Terry Funk when they wrestled Abdullah and the Sheik? That was one of the better moments of the movie.
Oh yeah. Abdullah's, he's actually he was a pretty nice guy. We liked him a lot. And Dory and Terry Funk. Terry Funk would come in. It was in town more than once, so we got to know Terry pretty well. And matter of fact, again, I got some good behind the scenes with Dory Funk, an interview that we did with him that's not in the movie, and some other shtick that we did with them after the match. We went out drinking with them one night.
Oh boy!
Which was really, I don't know if that was a good idea, but it was pretty funny because we shot an interview with them, and Terry was when the interview in the movie, he is very smashed. But they were good guys. They were fun. Terry was fun. The Sheik and him, they were buddies actually, and they knew how to put on a good match, and that was always fun to watch. We never knew what the outcome was of these matches. They never really told us what they were going to do. We just knew that there'd be something going on, and so we were seeing it for the first time and experiencing it just like the audience was. So that that was good for us. I mean, I think that's what kept it fresh and interesting.
Did you ever have an idea of just scripting it and working with a promoter that would have been willing to kind of do the matches that you wanted and put together the story that you wanted to do to produce the movie in more of a story way than just the random clips of matches?
That would have been possible if we had a budget.
Okay.
but we had no budget, so we were at the mercy of like, okay, who, I was working as a professional assistant cameraman in Detroit, and sometimes I'd get gear that I'd use, I'd have over the weekend that we might have used on Friday, and a couple times we'd use, if I needed a second camera, I'd be using the camera that we just finished a commercial with, or whatever, or if there were if there was film stock left over, used the film stock and what we were shooting. We kind of begged, borrowed, and stole our way through the movie. We were finding investors as we were shooting it. Uh, so, if we were able to find an investor that would put a few thousand in, then that gave us money to, buy and process film. So that really dictated a lot of when and what we shot. Uh, but we were hungry filmmakers, and we knew how to. We kind of, we knew a lot about independent filmmaking, so we were pretty driven to get it done.
So are the fans in the movie real?
Oh yeah, every one of them, for the most part. Uh, I think we may have put our friends in for one or two scenes, but I mean, they'd be hard pressed to figure out, to make them out from the regular crowd. There were, as we were doing the movie, one of the things I'm probably going to talk about in the making of, uh, they had some groupies that would follow them around. So we would see them at the big matches, and then if we were to, I remember driving to Toledo once to film a match, and it was like the worst weather ever. We get there, and oh my God, here's these strange people that are always at these matches. It was just very, it was interesting. Let's put it that way. I saw we would take a lot of stills. I'd see in the background. Oh, there's those people again sitting in the background. I mean, they just kind of showed up everywhere that we were, which was kind of
So they would
interesting.
travel the circuit. It'd be a lot of the similar girls, town to town.
Yeah, and guys, a couple, yes. And we interviewed some of the fans that are in the movie. I mean, they're basically, those were all real fans. They there were no shortage of rowdy fans in Detroit.
Was there any wrestler you noticed that maybe got more of the female groupies than the others?
That's a good question.
Because we're told by some that in those days it didn't
Bulldog.
even matter what you looked like.
Yeah,
Bulldog
no.
Don Kent.
Yeah. He had some groupies. Yeah. I remember. Yeah, was one. I think she's in the movie. Her there with her son. Talking about how much you like Don Kent. I remember that. Uh, yeah, not a whole. Yeah, I don't know. They were. Yeah, they did have some followers. They were an odd group.
And
I'll just leave it at that.
you talk about how rowdy they were. There's a couple scenes in there where it looks like there's some fans going after the Sheik, but security is getting in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Did you witness a lot of attacks on the Sheik? Because I've heard he's the most attacked wrestler of all time.
No one would ever get close to the ring, but yeah, they would. As a matter of fact, people would jump on me. I would be between them and the ring. Yeah, there was always fans jumping out or throwing stuff. I mean, they had security. They had a security guard on if each sides of all sides of the ring, and they were always, getting people to, pushing people back or doing whatever they do. I mean, you can see it in some of the. I think when the match where they carry Terry Funk out, you can see how rowdy the fans are in the wide shot. But yeah, I had stuff thrown at me all the time. Not all the time, but occasionally, or someone would try to jump on my back or bump into me, whatever. But I was kind of that just comes with the territory.
The music in the movie is very fitting and very interesting. Did you have much to do with compiling that?
I can honestly say I had absolutely nothing to do with it. But that being said, Don was really into music. He actually produced some independent artists. And Bob Finnegan, he actually had a little music career and he had a group. And I thought they did a great job putting the music together. Uh, and just recently, I was going through, Don passed Unfortunately, Don passed quite a few years ago. Kind of inherited everything from the movie, and as I was going through some stuff the other day, came upon an envelope. I opened it up, and a cassette dropped out, and it's all the music from the movie that they did, and some songs that are not in the movie. So I'm hoping that I'm going to burn a CD of that, and again, just put it out when I do the behind the scenes. But yeah, they formed a little band. There is a version of they did a version. They did a cut of the movie that in the '80s that I wasn't part of, and it opens up with Finnegan and his band playing one of the songs. And yeah, that's kind of out there. But yeah, I thought they did a really good job with the music. I mean, the
I
main
like
title.
the they call me Mr. Cool Shoes one when the Sheik's walking around in his
Yeah,
boots.
yeah.
Now, how disappointed were you when you ran out of money before the other production company took it over after all the work you'd put into it?
We we really had a tight edit on it as more of a documentary, and we knew we needed in order to finish the movie uh, that yeah we needed to even though we actually had a pretty good we had one investor that came in that gave us enough money to take it past the edit, and we got it all just about where it needed to be, but uh, we couldn't do any more without a big investment. So I was glad that Don was able to find the money to finish it up because it was really frustrating that it was just lingering. Meanwhile, you know, around 1980, I moved out to. I basically moved to Carmel to work with Michael Nesmith. Had a company called Pacific Arts. We started doing music videos. I moved to Los Angeles right after that. After his mother passed away and he inherited $30 million. Yeah, I saw the handwriting on the wall. I left, moved to LA, moved to Hollywood, started shooting music videos. One of the first things I did is I shot and directed Little Red Corvette with Prince.
Oh, wow,
Did a
that's impressive.
lot of music videos after that and worked with Michael Jackson, worked on things like Thriller and stuff like that. So at that time, I wasn't really focused on the wrestling movie. You know, suddenly my career was, I had a whole other career that was going on. Don had moved to Hollywood. He was trying to get his career off as a director and had this relationship with New World and was able to, put that together. And like I said, he was able to get, with the help of Tony Randall, complete the movie and actually get it out there. So, I was glad that that all happened. I was just busy. I was on another path at the time, so I was just happy that he was able to, get the movie to see the light of day.
If you were working on probably the most successful music video of all time, I'm sure you weren't that concerned for at that period of time. With Thriller, if you were part of that, as you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was just on another whole other, like I said, path. I was really, you can look my credits up in IMDb, Internet Movie Database. You look up Brian Greenberg, director of photography. There's this. You can see what I've been doing, but I worked on a lot of music video projects, and I'm sure if you watched MTV anytime during the '80s, you've seen a lot of my work. So, anyways.
Whose idea was the Stop the Chic scenes that I understand were put in before the final product came out?
Well, that's what Don was able to go. That's what Don was able to pitch New World. I wanted to go. He wanted to go back, do the whole Stop the Chic movement, put in Strange. We had people that he worked with on the Demon Lover. He had act in it, and it was a good call. And it gave the movie a thread, and it gave it more of a plot, and it gave it, another layer that could use to help sell that movie to New World. So, yeah, they put up the money for him to go do that. And I had no idea he even did that until I saw the movie. That was kind of a surprise to me. I was like, well, okay, fine.
Would
It
you
worked.
ever have imagined the wrestling business to change so much now where they don't even call it wrestling anymore? It's just storytelling entertainment from where it was back in the 70s when you started that movie with the Sheik's territory.
It is interesting to see where it is now. I watched some of that, but yeah, like you said, it's storytelling. It's just a different, just on a whole different level. But there's still some independent wrestling going on that's very much old school. There's a show called Wrestling from Hollywood, I think,
Yeah,
independent.
I've seen
Eh,
it.
Yeah, I mean, I watch that all the time. I think it's great. It really reminds me of what wrestling was back in the 70s and 80s. Very old school. Uh, they're not as they're just not as overblown as modern wrestling. It's just so over the top to me. It's just a little too much.
Now, I
I
think
don't.
wrestlers are more prima donnas today than they were back then, but how are the wrestler personalities compared to the musicians you dealt with doing music videos?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say night and day. The wrestlers, I had before I did the wrestling movie, I did another movie which you may enjoy seeing sometime, independent film called Northville Cemetery Massacre, and basically it's about a motorcycle gang, and we actually used a real motorcycle gang called the Scorpions that still exist in Detroit. So I spent a year hanging out doing my first independent movie, which actually got me into the business with this group of bikers that played these these actors in the movie, but they were real bikers, and it was intense. And so when it came time to meet the wrestlers, I was really apprehensive. I mean, it's just going to be the same craziness I dealt with when I was dealing with the Scorpions. Well, when it turned out it was completely wrong, totally opposite. The wrestlers, really good guys, really happy. They all enjoyed what they were doing. They were really good at it. We didn't have to go into a big plot line when we needed, the wrestlers to come up with dialogue. We could just throw out the ideas. They've been around enough, and it would just come out of especially somebody like Dick the Bruiser would just come out of his head. So, he was great to work with. The wrestlers, they were not. I, they all had their own personalities, and they all had big personalities, and they were all, to me, very charming. You really couldn't say anything negative about any of the wrestlers that we met. Uh, they were really enjoyable to be around, and then I think of some of the musicians I've worked with. Now they're us on a whole other level. From somebody like Prince. When you're working with him, it's just not like working. A matter of fact, Prince's bodyguard was a retired professional wrestler who knew a bunch of the people that I knew. Uh, if you ever look at the Vanity Six video that I shot with them, he's in the background. I'm trying to remember the
Is
video.
he? I think he
But,
was at the Purple Rain premiere. Is that the big blonde guy?
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
he was kind
Yeah,
of a character too.
yeah. So yeah, he used to he used to lift Prince up, put him on his shoulders, and parade him around. It was kind of weird. Okay, so anyways, yeah, the rock stars they're on a whole other level because you know, the wrestling's a smaller world, music world. They got managers, and they have a lot of things they're dealing with. So you don't have the same kind of one-on-one relationship you have that I had with people like Dick the Bruiser or Bobo Brazil or even even Andre the Giant.
Who was the
Most
hardest
music.
band to deal with as far as just being a pain in the butt as far as demands and so forth?
Okay, I got to take a minute to think about that one. Uh, oh, Van Halen would be right up there. I spent a day with Van Halen shooting some inserts for a video they were doing. And I love Van Halen. I love every one of them. They're great. I'm not worthy, but they were pretty nutty. They were tough. They were really, it's like guys, you can say the ego. It's okay. It's not gonna. I don't care. It's okay. But they're, it was. I loved every minute I was working with them. That being said, uh, no, I worked on. If you ever see the music video, I Don't Drive No 55 with Sammy Hagar. I did a lot of second unit on that with them driving. That was great. Sammy Hagar, great guy. Um, not a lot of really tough acts, really.
That's
That
good.
they were. we were there for them. We were basically working for them, trying to make them look good. So it's not, senseless to, come out there with any kind of an attitude.
Any
Although,
advice for shooting stuff for any of the filmmakers listening to this, or even me? I record stuff for my pro wrestling company back when we're allowed to run. Hopefully, one day we'll be able to run shows again.
what was the first part of
Oh,
that?
I was just asking, do you have any advice for like filmmakers or even a guy like myself that I film vignettes and other stuff for my wrestling company on just how to set up scenes and take shots?
There's so much great information on the internet, on YouTube, that when I was starting out, all I had was a pocketbook about filmmaking, passion for photography, and the ASC magazine. Uh, there is there is so much more accessible now. Now your iPhone, you're a filmmaker. So the best advice is to just keep doing it. Just keep finding a way to make that movie, and just keep following. Follow it to the next level. Try and push yourself to do things you haven't done before, and not to be discouraged by rejection. Because if you think you're being rejected now, wait till you start, becoming somewhat successful, and you have to deal with the real world, and where you cross over between, gee, this is fun making movies, to, oh my God, this is a real business. So yeah, uh, I hope that you're able to put on live matches. I'm really missing that on cable. I'm missing my wrestling shows that are showing all their old matches. Uh, yeah,
Is there anything you would change about the movie looking back at the product after all these decades, or do you like how the final product was?
by and large, that's a good question. By and large, I'm pretty happy with the way the movie came out because it really was a mishmash of stuff. And first time I ever saw the cut that Don put together, I was like in shock. It was like, oh my God, it's the worst movie ever made. And then the more I watch it, the more I kind of started really appreciating and loving what
I
we were
had that
working.
too.
Yeah,
The more times you
yeah,
watch it, the more you like it.
yeah. And then I got to really like it, and then I had a lot of great memories working on the film. And when I look at the behind the scenes footage and see the kind of stuff that I have that no one's ever seen before, I think, okay, this is worth. It's really not about the money. It's just supporting what the film is and the fans that are out there, because I appreciate the footage, and I know if I do, there's going to be a lot of other people that will too. So I'm happy with the way it came out. The only thing that I really miss is I really would love to find where the outtakes were. There's some things that we shot for the movie that's not in the film that I'd love for people to see. One of the scenes that I've found quite a few pieces for that I'm going to try and piece together was we uh, we actually did a scene with all the wrestlers in a topless bar, and we spent moments with each of the wrestlers in the movie doing some shtick. So you got the flying kangaroos doing a bunch of poetry, uh, crazy Luke Graham, doing his shtick, and it was just really fun little moments with these guys that I'd love to find. So who knows? I might get lucky. I'm still looking for it. So that's about the only thing that I really regret, is that I just don't have the outtakes. But considering that we shot this thing like 40 years ago, and we're sitting here talking about it, yeah, I'm pretty happy about that.
There's a whole new generation of people that are probably going to watch it once that new DVD comes out with that footage and people start talking about it again.
Yeah, I hope so. I think they'll be appreciative of seeing some things that you know you wouldn't expect to see. Uh, One of the things that I have is behind the scenes footage I shot when we were doing a commercial with Dick the Bruiser, when he was doing commercials for WIRF, in Detroit, which is pretty fun. It you know you see them kind of just just hanging out a bit, so it's cool. Anyways, yeah, listen, I appreciate that. There's fans out there like you that have that same passion for wrestling that I've had, and we can sit here and talk about these great wrestlers.
Well, I thank you for talking to us. Last question, since it's not related really to that movie, but maybe the other movie. I've had my dealings working in bars over the years with various motorcycle clubs. I'm just wondering what the craziest thing you saw hanging out with those scorpions for a year would have been, because I can only imagine.
Another great question. uh, okay, I'll tell you one funny story. So we're shooting on the highway. The bike club's there, and some cars pass, and they flip them off. They immediately get on their bikes and they run these guys down. And I don't know what transpired, but they came back with the guy's leather jacket. Meanwhile, some people saw what was going on, this altercation with these bikers and these guys. They call the police up and say, there's this fight going down on, I-17 and, Rosewood and blah, blah, blah. And the police, oh, no, they're just shooting a movie. Yeah, we know about that. Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to worry about that.
Oh boy.
The bikers thought that was great. They got away with that. But it was actually pretty nutty because they had a fight going on with another club, so they always had weapons with us, and we had, you could track this movie down. There's probably clips of it on YouTube. You'd appreciate it. Uh, in the movie, the cops turn out to be the bad guys, and they ambush the bikers at a funeral because they've been killing off the bikers. So we used to drive around with a wooden coffin when we were shooting cemeteries. That was just loaded with guns. If the police ever stopped us, God knows what would have happened. And then the bikers, half the time, they'd be firing off live ammunition to drive us crazy. Anyways, they were everything you would think of about bikers. They could be smiling and punching you in the face at the same time. I also learned how to drink a lot of beer in that year I was with them. I think
Now,
I could handle at least a six-pack by the time we finished.
hopefully not any of the other extracurricular stuff that they're sometimes known for.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It was soon after we finished the movie that one of the head of the gang, Tony, was arrested for some big thing that was going to go down at the airport. That they busted him on some kind of heist thing. Anyways, that was yeah. They were pretty notorious, and they had about a year ago. They had a screening of the movie for a film festival, and all the bikers showed up, and the director, and I was going to be there, but I couldn't. I had another commitment, but I guess everybody that was still around showed up, and it was quite rowdy with the bikers. I guess apparently they hadn't changed much since then, but yeah.
So where can people buy I Like to Hurt People? You mentioned that there's a website where you sell it now. I think eBay, maybe you said.
Yeah, so the best way to get it is to go onto eBay and just type in "I Like to Hurt People" DVD, and it'll come up to my site where you can see the DVD. I autograph every one that comes out on the back, and I think it sells for $14.99, $3 shipping, something like that. Try to keep it within reason. But yeah, that's about the only place you can officially get it. Hopefully, if I sell enough, I'd put up a website. But for now, that's basically where to get it. And people do find it. I just sold one today, so that is basically the movie. Well, it is a movie. Definitely the way it was supposed to have been, the way it was released from New World. And if you have any curiosity about what wrestling was back then in the 70s, this will answer all your questions.
Well, whenever you come out with the DVD, let me know. We'd love to have you on again. I'll put the link to buy the movie I Like to Hurt People in the description of this YouTube video for anyone listening to this that just wants to click on the description link. It'll take you right to the eBay site.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate all that. Really appreciate the support. And, stay in touch. And, I would love to include your story about how you, the first time you saw the movie, how your grandmother took it back to the video store. That is a great story. I only wish Don Jackson was alive to hear that. That would have he would have appreciated that.
But it made me want to watch it as a kid, right? And I didn't see it again because there was no internet then. So it wasn't until a new video store opened up that happened to have it years later.
That's great.
And last thing, I noticed you also have a movie called The Demon Lover. Is that worth watching as a horror movie fan?
Yes. That was the movie that we made before I Like to Hurt People.
Okay.
So what's interesting about that is it was all my friends. We were all filmmakers. The person that created the creature costume, he moved out to Hollywood and became really well known. He won 3 Academy Awards. I worked with him on a number of big movies, including Titanic. His miniature work was, known throughout Hollywood, basically. He did the atomic explosion in Terminator 2, and, very talented artist and one of our friends, and he created the creature in The Demon Lover. But Demon Lover, if you think I Like to Hurt People was a bad movie, Demon Lover will exceed all your expectations.
Very good. I don't think it was a bad movie. I recommend it to any wrestling fan out there. Maybe if you're a fan of today, you won't get it. But if I'm a huge fan of the Sheik, so maybe I'm biased.
Yeah.
But as I think I said, there's minimum 30 times. It may have been over 50 times that I've seen this movie.
Oh, wow, that's wild. Yeah. Yeah, the Sheik, the Sheik was really, he had a good sense of humor, and he was, we'd be hanging out with him right before he'd come out and do his whole act. And, one minute he's talking to you, next minute it's, oh, yeah, too. And he was quite the character. I kind of miss the guy.
I can't wait to see that DVD footage because there's very little of the Sheik out of character, pretty much nothing other than that one voice clip online where he's not even identified as the Sheik. Mm-hmm. So anything where he's talking at all or even semi out of character would be quite something to see. Yeah,
there is definitely a sequence in there that it's basically before a match, everybody's getting together and hanging out in the dressing room, and the Chic walks in with his entourage. Anyways, I'll save it for the.
And I gotta ask you, because we always hear about these wrestlers today hugging each other after matches. Did you ever witness the Sheik hug any of his opponents?
No, never.
No. Yeah, I didn't think so. Well, I really appreciate you talking to us, and anyone listening to this, buy the DVD. It's well worth it. You'll enjoy it, especially if you're a fan of the Detroit wrestling territory.
Well, I'm really glad I had a chance to talk to you about the film. It was fun, and I'm glad there's still fans out there like you, and we'll stay in touch in the future, and I'll let you know what I'm doing with the movie as I get closer to putting it out.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.